providing there's not too much injury damage to move the side round. I think Catalan don't tend to like coming up to Humberside generally. So I think I see Cal taking this one.
I think Catalans have had a few wins in Hull over the last few years, even though they've got an overall poor away record. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm clutching at something there. But I'm going for Catalans. I think this Catalan side, one thing that is different to previous Catalan sides, is I think when they will take a good long hard look at themselves, which it sounds like they will do after that defeat at home to Salford, I think they've got some players who can show the right sort of leadership in those circumstances. People like Tompkins and Smith and Bird and Casti. So I'm going to go Catalans by 8.
Okay, and completing the weekend starting at 3:30, it's Cass against Salford. How do you see this one going?
Cass by 10. Salford are playing some attractive stuff, and I hope it's a high-scoring game. I hope it's something like 30-something to 20, plays 20-something. But I just think Cass at home should be good enough.
Yeah, I've also gone for the black and amber side. I just don't think Salford yet will have the consistency to be able to pull together 2 wins in a row, and I think Cass will probably be able to bounce back. So I think I'm saying them by. But again, I think it's going to be quite a few tries in this one. So I think it's probably going to be 30-20.
Fair enough. Okay, into the Championship game of the week. When we've looked through the fixtures, it had to be 2 teams in the playoff places. One team who started really, really well at life back in the Championship, and another team who've been a bit scratchy, and they're on minus points difference still, but have found themselves with 4 wins from 6, and that's Halifax away trip to York. I'm going to tip York on home soil with an extra little bit of rest and frustration to get out after last week's game being called off so late in the day. What about you?
Yeah, also going to say York for this one. Just think, again, home advantage and having that rest is going to help them.
Fair enough. Into League One then, the game of the week. It had to be a side who, looking at the fixtures, where have you got teams towards the top of the table playing each other, and it's the surprise package versus one of the promotion favourites. Coventry versus Workington. You'll be doing your bit on the mic and on the decks, I'm sure, in this one. Getting the crowd all excited at the big butt. I would love to pick Coventry to win, but I just think Workington are maybe a little bit too good overall for Coventry, but I would love it to go the other way and Coventry to continue their amazing home form to start the season, but I'm going Workington. What about you?
I've backed my boys. I've said Coventry do it. I think there's going to be a couple of enforced changes this week between some of the concussions that were picked up last week, and also Nick Newman's got a 1-match suspension and he's kind of been pivotal, so I kind of lent, but I can't tip against them, so I think we're going to bring it home and then upset someone else. And what will be interesting is hopefully we'll get to see the rematch between Fufu Moi Moi and Peter Ryan after the stunning introduction last year.
Yeah, we might see some more bans for Coventry after this game, but we shall see. Into the NRL, which starts this weekend. It kicks off this Thursday, actually, with a team that no longer has any British players to look out for, the Broncos. So I pulled them out of the rundown, but the Brit Picks for you to watch, and that game's on Sky. But the games for you to watch where you got British interest: the Roosters versus the Rabbitohs on Friday at 8:55 a.m. That one is on Sky, and obviously you've got a host of Burgesses for the Rabbitohs, and Ryan Hall, maybe, you never know, might play for the Roosters, but I'm thinking not. But we shall see. I haven't seen the team sheets, actually, the team list, to see if he's been named in that, Ryan Hall. But either way, there'll be British interest on display in that fixture. On Saturday, unfortunately not on Sky, but you can get it on Watch NRL app if you subscribe to that. The Cowboys versus the Dragons, Saturday 8:35 a.m. kickoff. That's going to have Gareth Widdop and James Graham. Potentially from an English point of view, from a a British point of view as well. So keep an eye on that. And then Sunday's game, which is on Sky, should be John Bateman's debut in the Canberra Raiders jersey. They're away at the Gold Coast Titans. That's 7:10 kickoff on Sunday. You've also got, Hodgson, Whitehead, potentially Ryan Sutton in the mix as well from the Canberra side. That we're strongly suspecting we'll have George Williams in it when we get to round 1 of 2020 as well. So make sure you get out there on the Google form to send us your fan reviews in of next week's games. We'll cover ones from the NRL if you send those in too. Anything you put on the form, we read it out. So please get in your views on all the games and action that you see next week, especially if you're at a game that we don't get to see on television. That would be brilliant. Cheers for that, guys. Okay, that's it for this show. Other than to do a little bit of fun in the wrap-up. So let's see what we've got for you in terms of a quiz and maybe some recommendations too, Tim. Let's move along to that. So, Tim, after a couple of stinkers from me in doing the quiz, and I've got to say I think I've had some harsh questions too over the last couple of weeks, but I'm setting the quiz this week. I'm back as the quiz master for you, Tim. And we're gonna do the quiz on what we were just talking about, really. British players in the NRL. So, according to the wonderful Rugby League project, the stats available on that site, which of the current English NRL players basically is going to be the preview to all of these questions. So question 1 is, which of the current English NRL players has played the most times in the English game? This includes league and cup matches but not internationals.
Ryan Hall?
Yes, it is Ryan Hall. 321 times according to the Rugby League project. Okay, which of the NRL English players has played the most NRL finals games? So playoffs for people unfamiliar with the alternate language that they speak in Australia.
I'm down to 2. I'm going to take the bait of the obvious answer and say Sam Burgess.
It's James Graham.
Yeah.
With 13 appearances, Sam Burgess has played 12 times in the finals. James medal throwing, always the bridesmaid Graham is the one who's played in the most finals games but doesn't have a grand final winners ring. Okay, so then of the players who've played in both leagues, so that's Sam Burgess, Tom Burgess, Josh Hodgson, Elliot Whitehead and James Graham so far, which players have played more games in Australia than they played in England?
Oh, well, Sam, all Burgesses. I'm not sure on James Graham. Definitely, I'm going to say all Burgesses.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously George Burgess never played a professional game in England, so he's off that list. But the two Burgesses that were on that list, Sam and Tom, both have played more times in the NRL than they played in England. So you got it. Well done. You were 2 for 3 on that quiz this week, and I hope the listeners did well too, because I think I made it, accessible this week, Tim. Accessible is the word I'm going to use. Okay, on to our recommendations then. What do you have for us first, Tim?
So Sarah Pascoe will be my first one. Went to see her show at the London Palladium yesterday. Yeah, lads. I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
We saw there's actually recording for a DVD as well.
Ooh,
so you might just see our faces on the DVD.
Did you take any inflatables to try and get into the footage?
Didn't take any inflatables. Did have a lot of shopping though, because we'd been around sort of Soho and Carnaby Street and that sort of area. I popped into a couple of record shops, Kel Surprise and the Lambretta store as well, which doesn't really surprise anyone. And we had sort of a nice day mooching around that sort of part of London. And it brings me on to my other recommendation, which is tea-based.
And everyone, drink.
which is a company called Yumcha. I'm not really sure how to say it. Tea company. We popped in there because they've got a little shop in just off Berwick Street. Which Berwick Street, if you are a sort of music fan, is the street where the Definitely Maybe cover was taken.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Is it Definitely Maybe, or what's the story? Whichever one it is that's on the street.
What's the story was the one that was in a street. Definitely Maybe was in the front room of a house.
Yeah,
obviously that house would be on a street too.
I think that was one of the
story then.
Yeah, Bonehead's old house in Manchester.
Yeah,
but it's What's the Story? Morning. That street is Berwick Street, and you can see Reckless Records in the left-hand corner. But so it's just up from that was where.
So what particular tea?
So I had one called Notting Hill, which was very nice, and Heather, my girlfriend, had a raspberry and lemon type one, rooibos, red bush type one, and then we also bought a caramel cookie one to take home with us as well. So we had
that to be drank hot?
Night. Yes, all hot teas, but they did do iced if you want them.
Fair enough. Excellent. Mine is one that I've been holding on to for a few weeks, for a moment where I've had a week where didn't really have anything new. I probably would have talked about Derry Girls, but we kind of previewed how much we both enjoyed that on last week's show.
And wasn't it a great first episode?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, the accents give it a 10% start, I think, on most other sitcoms. If
you want to laugh as well, go and look at the interviews where, say, Nicola Coughlan does her impression of Nadine from Girls Aloud, and that's just really funny.
And stuff. So, I mean, all the comedy shows that we talked about last week are still fantastic. But
although slightly disturbingly, my parents said they've started watching Fleabag, and it just doesn't.
It's a big push on the BBC, isn't it, for a BBC Three show?
Yeah, it doesn't doesn't really feel like the show that your parents should be watching.
But if it gets it better airtime, Tim, and keeps it on the TV, then you shouldn't be, knocking this.
Yeah, but I don't really want to discuss some of the things in it with my parents.
Yeah, I mean, you could change the topic.
It could do, but it's the idea that they're watching it's just a bit wrong.
Excellent. Well, my recommendation anyway is the Hurricane Tapes, which is a podcast series from the BBC World Series. So if you go on the BBC Sounds app, or probably whatever app you're using to listen to this podcast too, get on it. It's about the story of Rubin Hurricane Carter, the boxer who was arrested on murder charges in the 60s.
Bob Dylan song about him as well.
Yes, a Bob Dylan song, a film starring that famous Denzel Washington as well about it too. The podcast series is really good. I would strongly recommend it. It's got some hence the name, the Hurricane Tapes. They found some tape recordings of Rubin Carter and of the lead investigating police officer as well from it that they feed into interviews that they do with people who are still alive that are involved in the story. But it's a really good series. I would strongly recommend binge listening to that on your commute after you've listened to all your Rugby League podcasts. So come like Thursday, Friday, when the quality dips in Rugby League podcast output from the Monday efforts, it's something to listen to, definitely. And we talked about the Rugby League project a couple of times on this show. The latest Rugby Reloaded by Tony Collins actually features Andrew Ferguson from the Rugby League project on there. So give that a listen to after you've listened to whatever SLP puts out this week. I don't think we've got anything more coming up actually, Tim, but Sarah's back next week, so will she have a fourth Hull FC win in a row to talk about? I mean,
surely
that would be remarkable, wouldn't it? That would truly say that the curse should never be mentioned again if that was the case. So we'll see how we get on with that, and we'll probably get a Mighton under-9s update because their season will be really ready to go. So see how our young halfback hero is shaping up as well. So that's exciting stuff. To remind you all, if you're not already all over our social media channels, you can at Super League Pod on Twitter and Instagram is where you can find us there. Please do, like, share, retweet all our stuff. Facebook.com/Super League Pod. Give us the thumb up on Facebook. Help get our presence spread a bit further there, please, as well. superleaguepod@gmail.com if you want to send us an email about anything we spoke about on the show this week. superleaguepod.com is where you'll find the blog post. At the moment, they're mostly just the episode ones, but that'll give you all the details you need to know that we talk about on these shows and all the details about our great sponsors that I'll get to in a second. Search for the show on Spreaker, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, they're the same thing, Leaguecast, Android app, Podcast Addict, Stitcher,